What happens to a lot of people on the carnivore diet is they start to get in shape, and fantastic shape at that. But then as they get leaner and leaner, they realize that if they gain some muscle mass, it would significantly enhance the way they looked. This right here is quite possibly the most requested topic I've ever had for a video. So I thought, because I'm a man of the people, that today I'd make it. In this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about building muscle on the carnivore diet. How muscle building works. How many sets should I be doing? What are the best exercises? The exact perfect form to use. And I'm even going to give you a free workout program. One for individuals who want to go to the gym, and one for individuals who just want to work out at home. So without further ado, let's get into it. How do we build muscle? Well, it's actually incredibly simple. Through resistance training, we're going to break down muscle fibers. Now, resistance training can be done through many methods, whether it be bodyweight exercises like push-ups or lifting weights in the gym. When we do this, we have micro tears in our muscle fibers. This right here is what is known as hypertrophy. And then what happens after this hypertrophy has occurred is a process known as muscle protein synthesis, which is a really fancy way of saying we eat protein and it repairs these muscle fibers and they grow back ever so slightly stronger and bigger than last time. The reason they do this is, well, it's a stress response. Our muscles think, geez, that was difficult. If we have to do this again in the future, we want to be well equipped for it. Hence why we get bigger and stronger as a result of resistance training. Now, the carnivore diet, when it comes to building muscle, just makes things easier. For starters, it improves the muscle protein synthesis because meat is the highest protein food on the planet, and it also is the most bioavailable source of protein. There are some plants that contain relatively decent amounts of protein. However, plant protein is nowhere near as effective as animal protein because the amino acid makeup of the protein in these plants is nowhere near as good. You see, protein breaks down into something known as amino acids. For protein to be as effective as possible, it needs to contain a large array of these amino acids, and it needs to be very high in some of the more anabolic amino acids, such as leucine. So plants don't have this wide array, and they're very low in leucine, which makes them considerably less effective than animal protein. Ideally, you want to get 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, but this right here is on the lower end. I actually have probably closer to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass, but I'm a very active individual, and for most people, as long as you're hitting that 1 gram amount, you're probably covered. You're also going to have much better hormone regulation. In particular, your testosterone will increase. For men, it will increase significantly, and for women, it will increase at least to a small degree. Now, testosterone is incredibly important when it comes to gaining muscle mass due to a number of reasons. One of which being is that it enhances this muscle protein synthesis, and it also promotes the creation of many other anabolic hormones such as growth hormone. Because meat is high in cholesterol, which is a precursor to testosterone, your testosterone is going to increase, and therefore your muscle protein synthesis is going to increase, and your growth hormone is going to increase. So when your muscles are appearing more effectively due to this increased muscle protein synthesis, and those two hormones, both of which are steroid hormones, have also increased. It's just going to make that process of gaining muscle so much smoother. As well as the fact that because the carnivore diet is a low inflammation diet, you're going to have less of hormones like cortisol, which are catabolic hormones, which essentially means they're anti-anabolic, which means it promotes muscle breakdown rather than muscle gain. And you're also going to have a lot more blood flow, which is essential for getting the nutrients to your muscles so they can grow. Okay, now let's make this actionable. We know how muscles grow, but what can we actually do to grow them? Well, I'm going to give you 2 different ways. The first being the gym route, which by far is the most effective. I personally do this, and every bodybuilder on the planet does this. However, for some people, maybe you have a really busy lifestyle and it's just not possible to get in the gym on a frequent basis. I also have another alternative, which I'll discuss at the end. However, make sure you still do watch this gym route path because I will be breaking down all the fundamental foundational aspects of building muscle that you need. So like I talked about at the start, we need to first tear the muscle down with micro tears and then allow it to recover with protein in order for it to grow. So what we need to do is we need to train a muscle and then give it a considerable amount of time for it to recover. The best split, and it's a classic one I know, that you can do to achieve this is the push-pull leg split, which essentially means you'll do chest, triceps, and shoulders one day, you'll do back and biceps the next, and legs on the third, and then have a rest day afterwards. Now, if you just want to train 3 days per week, you can do session 1 on Monday, session 2 on Wednesday, and session 3 on Friday. Or you can just train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and take the rest of the week off. But you also have the option to, well, train 6 days per week. Do the cycle twice per week. It really depends on how much time you have and how much you love working out, I guess. By doing this split, you give every muscle enough time to recover, which, as we know, is an essential part of gaining muscle. Now let's talk about how hard we need to train, what form is best, and how many sets per week should we do. The simple answer is you want to train to failure. Like I talked about, gaining muscle is a stress response. Your body goes, geez, if we're going to be exposed to this load in the future, we need to do something so that it's much easier for us. So if you're absolutely pushing yourself in the gym, doing every set till failure, till you can't get the weight up no more, you're going to have more of this stress response. And you'll get all the low testosterone individuals on the internet who will tell you, you don't need to do this. As long as you train close to failure, it's fine. It's just simply not true, however. And the only way to make up for not training to failure is to do an absurd amount of sets. Which, I mean, we're all busy. We have lives to live. We don't want to be spending all of our day lifting weights if we don't have to. So trust me, train to failure. Then, when it comes to form, you want to make sure you get a full range of motion. The most hypertrophy, which remember, is muscle tissue breakdown, that you'll get is actually in the lengthened part of a rep. You see it all the time, a lot of people do these half reps at the gym and they never get any bigger. You need to be getting a full stretch and a full contraction at the top when you're doing your sets. The main way you build muscle is you stretch it with a load. So when you're lifting weights, like I said, you want to make sure you get a full stretch and you fully contract it. You need to be doing full reps if you want to maximize growth. So how many sets per week should we be doing? Well, I reckon between 10 and 15 is best. Now, if you're trained to absolute failure, you might want to go on the lower end. But for most individuals, when you're first getting into the gym, you actually get less out of a set than you will when you're more experienced, say a couple years into your lifting career. I remember when I first started working out and I'd do back exercises and I'd feel very little contraction in my back. I simply hadn't developed the mind-muscle connection, which is essentially where you kind of like use your mind to connect to the muscle as you're training it. It sounds a bit bro science and a bit crazy, but trust me, over time, you'll believe this to be 100% true. And I also didn't have the most flawless form when I started lifting because obviously I was a beginner. However, over time, as you refine your form and when you're doing exercises, you do it better in line with the anatomy of the muscle you're trying to target and you develop this mind-muscle connection, you'll actually get a lot more from a set. Now, when I do literally one set of pull-ups, I have such a massive pump in my back and it feels like I've already had a tough workout despite only doing one set. So if you're just starting out, you might actually want to be on this higher end so you can develop that form faster. Now, if you are only training 3 times per week, you probably only want to do 7 sets per week, simply because any more than 7 sets to failure in one workout per muscle group is quite a lot. Another thing you want to consider is that on Carnivore, your recovery is actually a lot better. Because your whole body's not inflamed, you can just train harder for longer periods of time. I personally noticed this. My muscles don't seem to get that same fatigue sensation that they used to do. So how many reps should you be doing per set? Some people will tell you you've got to lift heavy, and then other people will talk about volume. You've got to do high reps, bro. Well, what's the truth? The thing is, it kind of depends. The current science indicates that as long as you're doing sets between 5 and 30 reps, it doesn't matter too much if you're on this lower end or the higher of the end. However, what I will say is you want to mix it up. You see, there are 2 types of muscle fibers, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 muscle fibers, known as slow twitch muscle fibers, are used during more endurance exercises. So when you're doing sets of 30, these are going to be more active. And then type 2 or fast twitch muscle fibers are more active during heavier movements. Now, each muscle is comprised of roughly 40 to 60% of each type of muscle fiber. So in order to target all of these muscle fibers and maximize the amount of growth potential you have, you want to mix up the amount of reps you're doing for each set. Now, what are the best exercises for each muscle group? Well, to tell you the truth, this is very person to person dependent. You might have seen videos online where they break down exactly which exercise is best by using this machine called an EMG machine. Basically, how it works is they stick some like sensor on the muscle, and the more electricity or whatever is generated, the more activation the muscle has. This right here is very person to person dependent. Just because one exercise works better for one individual, it doesn't mean it works best for you. I actually think a really good way to go about things is just to simply do what feels best for you. However, on screen right now, I do have my best recommendations for each muscle group. So if you do some sort of variation of each of these, chances are you're doing what's best. For back, a good place to start is lat pull downs or pull-ups. And then after that, do some sort of rowing movement, and then finishing off with some pullovers is a great option. You see, by doing this, we get to target the back through every different angle, which allows us to hit each individual muscle fiber. You see, when we do the lat pull down / pull-ups, our arms are raised, which creates a very different stretch to say something like a row, where we're stretching it in front of us. And then when we finish with pullovers, which start up here and we pull over rather than pulling down like pull-ups, that again creates a very different stretch and a very different contraction, which, like I said, allows us to target each individual muscle fiber from different angles. And then for chest, it's just really the usual suspects. A good place to start is with some pressing movement, a bench press if you've got a spotter with you, or just some sort of press machine if you're training by yourself. One good tip for chest, however, is you actually want to prioritize incline movements, ideally at roughly a 30 to 45 degree angle on the bench you're on. By doing so, it will target your upper chest mainly. And the upper chest is the most important part of the chest to grow because it gives you that big, full-looking chest. It's also the part that's like most visible in singlets, etc. So it is the part you want to grow the most. And then you have your cable flies, which is a very popular movement. I'm sure you've seen people at the gym doing it. And then when it comes to biceps, just, well, dumbbell or cable bicep curls. For me personally, on a bicep day, I'll just do 4 sets of biceps, 1 set to failure on each different exercise. So I'll do 1 set of regular dumbbell curls, 1 set of hammer curls, 1 set of cable curls, where I will set the cable up behind me so it creates that stretch at the back. And then to finish, I'll do 1 set of curls where I have my arms in front of me. Again, this allows me to train my muscle from every angle, which means we can hit every fiber. And then for triceps, to tell you the truth, you actually might not even need to train triceps, just because in all your pressing movements, there's actually a large amount of tricep activation. However, it's probably a good idea just to do a few sets on the cable crossovers of that tricep rope. And for shoulders, all you need to do is some sort of side lateral raise. The shoulder is split into 3 parts. You have the front delt, obviously at the front, the side delt, obviously at the side, and the rear delt at the back. However, the rear delt is used a lot in all your back movements, and your front delt is used a lot through all your pushing movements. And so the part of your shoulder that you need to train the most, it is still partially used through these movements, but not to the same degree as your front or rear delt, and that is the side delt. The side delt is also the part which gives you that curved look. So for them, you just want to do side lateral raises, either with dumbbells or, as I like to do them, on the cables. Now, I know all of this sounds incredibly complicated, hitting it from different angles, rah, but to tell you the truth, you can still gain a significant amount of muscle mass just by going to the gym, doing some presses, doing some sort of back movements. You don't have to get too fancy with it. I'm just giving you the complete guide like this video talks about. Whoops, I almost forgot about legs. I'm sure it wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world since 90% of people skip legs anyway, but if you are a rare individual who's looking to have a complete physique for legs, what are you going to want to do? Well, to start, I'm sorry to say, squats. I don't care what anyone says, squats are by far the best way to grow big legs. When I wanted to grow legs, I did heavy squats, and my legs literally went from being the body part I didn't train for most of my life to within a year being by far my best body part. So after you do 1 to 2 sets of heavy squats, close to failure, you don't really want to fail on squats just because it's rather annoying having to take all the weight off and put it back up. But get pretty close to failure, then I think the best thing to do is leg extensions. Do a couple of sets of them to complete failure. Remember, on both of these, we don't want to be locking our legs up at the top. That is a recipe for a knee injury. Do not do that. And then to finish, Romanian deadlifts are a great option, and or some hamstring curls. And now we have the busy lifestyle route for individuals who don't have the time to go into the gym. This right here would be my go-to if I couldn't access a gym. All you need to do is 3 to 5 sets per day of push-ups to failure. And then to train your back and to train your biceps, invest in a pull-up bar. It's a small investment, but without it, it's kind of hard to target those muscle groups. And then you want to do 3 sets per day of pull-ups to failure. Now, if you can't do push-ups or you can't do pull-ups because you're just beginning your fitness journey, do easier variations. Maybe do push-ups on your knees, or instead of doing pull-ups with your complete body weight, buy some of those resistance bands to help you up. And as you get stronger and stronger, you can do regular push-ups and you can start to do proper pull-ups. And then if you care about training your legs, you can also do 2 sets of squats to failure. And after you can get about 50 reps, start holding something. Maybe put a backpack on or hold a heavy rock. I'm not exactly sure what is best to hold, but I'm sure you have something around your house which would work well. And then take 1 to 2 days off per week for recovery. And if you used all the principles I talked about throughout this video, such as the full range of motion, even just by doing this, you can achieve a pretty impressive physique. So let's summarize everything in this video. Tear the muscle fibers down, repair it with protein. Do either the 3-day split I talked about or the home workout program. Every set to failure, ideally around 10 to 15 sets per week, per muscle group. Get a full stretch and do 5 to 30 reps per set. See you next time.